Now, how can you have, when we live within a finite world called the biosphere, we live within that very thin zone of air, water, and land where life is sustained. If you were to reduce the Earth to the size of a basketball, the biosphere, the zone of air, water, and land where all life exists, would be thinner than a layer of saran wrap. That's it. And you can't grow it anymore. But economists think that the economy must grow, keep on growing forever. That is the very definition of how well we're doing. I'm not even going to talk about the GDP and what a nutty measurement that is. But we actually believe that we've got to keep sustaining this steady growth, and so therefore no one ever asks, how much is enough? Is this what an economy is for? What are the limits? So we keep on pushing for this steady economic growth. Well, you know, anything growing steadily over time is called exponential growth, and anything growing exponentially has a predictable doubling time, okay? So if whether it's the amount of garbage you make or the amount of water you use, the amount of land your city occupies, anything growing exponentially has a doubling time. If it's growing at 1% a year, it'll double in 70 years. 2% a year, it'll double in 35 years. 3% in 24 years. 4% in 17 and a half years. Anything growing exponentially has a predictable doubling time. So I'm going to show you why this notion of steady growth forever is absolutely suicidal. I'm going to give you an analog of the Earth. That's a test tube. The test tube is full of food for bacteria. And I'm going to put one bacterial cell in, and it's going to divide every minute. So that's exponential growth. At time zero, when the experiment's starting, you've got one bacterial cell. 1 minute, there are 2. 2 minutes, there are 4. 3 minutes, there are 8. That's exponential growth, okay? And at 60 minutes, the test tube is completely full of bacteria, and there's no food left. So you have a 60-minute growth cycle, and the question always is, when is the test tube half full? And of course, the answer is at 59 minutes. Even though it's been around for 59 minutes, it's only half full. But 1 minute later, it's full, right? So at 58 minutes, it's 25% full. At 57 minutes, it's 12.5% full. At 55 minutes of a 60-minute growth cycle, it's 3% full. So if at 55 minutes, one of the bacteria said, hey, guys, you know, I think we got a population problem. The other bacteria would say, what the hell have you been smoking, man? 97% of the test tube's empty, and we've been around for 55 minutes. And they'd be 5 minutes away from filling it. So bacteria are no smarter than people. At 59 minutes, they finally go, oh my God, Jack was right. We got 1 minute left. What the hell are we going to do? Well, let's give some money to, don't give it to those economists. Let's give that money to the biotechnologists and those chemists and those computer guys, and by God, in less than a minute, they invent 3 test tubes full of food for bacteria. So they quadruple the amount of food in space in less than, so they're saved, right? So what happens? At 60 minutes, the first test tube's full. 61 minutes, the second's full. 62 minutes, all 4 are full. By quadrupling the amount of food in space, you buy 2 extra minutes. How do we add even a percentage more of air, water, soil, or biodiversity? And every biologist I've spoken to agrees with me. We're already past the 59th minute. And everybody talking about how we've got to have more is simply saying we've got to hurry what is a suicidal path. What do we think the world scientists were warning us about? We're undermining the life support systems of the planet. Now, when I say this to politicians and business people, and I do quite often, they get very pissed off at me. How dare you say we're past the 59th minute? Look at our stores. They're filled with goods. Look at our people. We're growing taller, and we're healthier, and we're living longer. Everything's getting better. How dare you say we're past the 59th minute? Well, I say very easily. It's easy to say that. You're living with an illusion. You're using up the rightful legacy of your children and grandchildren in the name of economic progress, because you're not even thinking about them. I was born in Vancouver. I have vivid memories before the war of my father rowing with me in a boat around Stanley Park. And we would catch sea run cutthroats, and Rafe, you know that very well. We would jig for halibut off Spanish banks, catch sturgeon in the Fraser any time, or go up to the Vetter Canal Vedder River and catch steelhead and Dolly Varden. And when my grandchildren call me all the time begging me to take them fishing, I can't even take them out and catch a rock cod today. None of those fish are there anymore. Americans like to say, well, that's the price of progress. I don't think it's progress to use up the rightful legacy of our children and grandchildren. Americans say there's plenty more where that came from. There isn't. If they're not here, they're not anywhere. The planet is fully occupied, fully developed for other creatures. When we push them out of existence, they don't go somewhere else. So that's the problem with economics, is that it provides this illusion that everything that we use in our lives comes from this construct called economics. And what it does is it removes us from an understanding that everything we do has repercussions that extend around the world. We now think you just work hard, you make money, and that money allows you to buy whatever you want. For me, the nail in the coffin, or let me use a different metaphor, what really showed me the problem of living in a shattered world happened a few years ago when I realized that we were having epidemic levels of asthma in Canada. Today, 12% of children are born with asthma. When I was growing up in Vancouver, my parents had never heard the word asthma. It was a rare medical condition. Today, you can't go to a classroom anywhere in the country and not find kids using puffers. So I said, look, we've got to do a show on asthma. Let's wait for a smog alert day in Toronto. And as you know, in the summer, you only have to wait a day or two, and there's a smog alert. And we'll go down to the emergency ward of Toronto General. So the smog alert came out, rushed down to the General. I couldn't believe it. It was packed with old people and children having severe asthma attacks. They were being brought into the hospital by the children of the adult, or the old people, or the parents of the kids. Were coming in, their eyes were bugged out of their heads. They were so terrified they wouldn't get their loved ones in to see a doctor in time. And yet, many of them drove their parents or their kids in a sports utility vehicle. And that's when I realized they love their parents. They love their children. I don't have any doubt about that. They would do anything to avoid these terrible episodes, these crises of asthma attacks. But because they live in a shattered world, it doesn't occur to them that the decisions they make in their lifestyle, in this case, driving an SUV, is a part of the very problem they're dealing with every time they have a crisis. So that's when I realized that the real challenge is that we have to put the world back together again, to see it as it really is.